And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the weekend edition on Australian Indian Radio. And right now, we're going to be very soon joining with the news conference that's happening. But first of all, let's take a look at some of the news that's been happening. What's happening down in New South Wales? 170 new infections.
What a day to be outdoors. But in Sydney's hotspots, it can only be enjoyed from behind a mask.
I understand in a confined area or where people are actually close together, but yeah, on your own, I don't get that.
Using the masks outside sucks, but it has to be done.
The mask mandate's only exemptions are during vigorous exercise and in vehicles. The rules are tough, but the Premier insists they're necessary.
This Delta strain is contagious, it's deadly, and it's affecting people of all ages.
Signs of COVID are everywhere. Even in the east, police are out in force. And they're preparing for the possibility of another protest tomorrow.
It's really sad, shocking. I can't believe it. It's insane that people think that way.
I'm in two minds about it. I agree that, we need to, have a voice, but I just don't think the timing's right, especially with numbers so high.
To avoid a repeat of this, 1,000 officers will guard the CBD.
If you think you can splinter from that and protest somewhere else in Greater Sydney, that force will be mobile and will be waiting for you.
Your actions will hurt. Forget about the rest of us, but you could be taking the disease home. Do not give those you love the most.
Well, right now, ladies and gentlemen, we will go and join in the live conference that's happening here in Brisbane.
Strain can spread very, very quickly. It is much more dangerous than the previous strains that we have been dealing with. It means these new cases mean that there are now 7 cases in the outbreak that we notified yesterday. We have seen from the experience in other states that the only way to beat the Delta strain is to move quickly, to be fast and to be strong. That is now the nationally agreed approach. Just now, the Premier chaired our daily COVID meeting. We received the advice of the Chief Health Officer, and the Premier has ordered that we move strongly and implement all of the restrictions advised by the Chief Health Officer. We must go hard and go early. And so from 4 p.m. today, the 11 LGAs that currently have mask wearing requirements will go into lockdown. This will be the strictest lockdown that we have had. We can only, in these 11 LGAs, leave home for 4 reasons. To obtain essential goods, for example groceries and medications, but only within 10 kilometres of our homes. So that is a stricter geographic movement restriction than we've had in the recent lockdowns. You can leave home for essential work, school or childcare. School or childcare is only for essential workers or vulnerable families. High schools will, for the first time, have masks for teachers, students and everyone in the school. You can leave home to exercise with only one person who is not from your household, but you must do so within your local area, so that 10-kilometre restriction applies to exercise. And of course you can leave home for healthcare, to care for somebody who needs assistance, to get your COVID-19 vaccination or to get a COVID-19 test. There will be no visitors to homes within those 11 LGAs. Funerals and weddings will be restricted to 10 people within those 11 LGAs from 4 p.m. today. Non-essential businesses will not be permitted to open. Hospitality, so pubs, clubs, cafes will be restricted to takeaway only. Cinemas, entertainment venues, hairdressers, gyms, places of worship will all be closed. These restrictions will apply to anyone who's been in those 11 LGAs from 1 a.m. this morning. So even if you are no longer in those 11 LGAs, if you were here at 1 a.m. this morning, these restrictions apply no matter where you are now. They will be in place until 4 p.m. on Tuesday, but of course that will be subject to events between now and then. While the lockdown commences at 4 p.m. today, we would urge anyone in those 11 LGAs to to go home and stay at home if you can. So if you are thinking about going out, please stay home if you can. If you are out and about now, please go home if you can. Grocery stores will stay open throughout the lockdown, so please don't think that you need to rush to get essential items. You will be permitted to leave your homes for essential items. Please don't rush our grocery stores. That creates a risk of infection that we want to avoid. We've been in contact with the supermarkets. They are all well supplied. So anyone rushing, stockpiling, it just makes the job of our grocery stores, our supermarkets, and the essential workers in those supermarkets even harder and more risky. Our message to people in the southeast is we have been here before, but this time it's different. We cannot afford to be complacent just because we have done so well so far. We all have to comply with these restrictions. All of the governments of Australia now recognise that when dealing with the Delta strain, the only way is to go hard and go early. That is what we have been advised to do. That is what the Premier has instructed that we do. It is what we are doing from today. Both Indooroopilly State High School and Ironside State School students and staff are all now in quarantine for 14 days. All other schools in those 11 LGAs will be closed Monday and Tuesday, except for those essential workers. It is our intention that this is a short lockdown and that we can deal with this outbreak within days, because we know that that's the best way for businesses to recover, the best way to keep people in work, the best way to keep our economy going. But we also acknowledge that this lockdown has come not long after the last one, and that's why for this lockdown we will seek to have a compensation package in place. We will work through the details of that today. We will contact the Commonwealth and seek to have similar compensation arrangements as those that have been applied in other states during these lockdowns, and we'll have more information about that when we update you tomorrow. I'll ask the Chief Health Officer to provide more detail.
Thank you very much, Deputy Premier. So yes, we had 6 new community-acquired cases yesterday, so there are now 7 in that cluster, and they are related to 2 people who returned from overseas and were in hotel quarantine. So there are now 9 linked cases. I still don't have the direct link from one of those 2 cases through to these new 7 cases, but I know through whole genome sequencing that that is where the transmission has occurred. So today we now have all 5 people in one household have been infected, so all 5 of those household members. We know that Delta is a particularly infectious strain. Then we know that we have another person today who is a medical student at the University of Queensland who's a tutor for that 17-year-old that we announced yesterday. She's infected, and I suspect, although it's hard to know because of the very rapid transmission timeframes, I suspect that that medical student is the index case and has taken it into that household, and then it has spread within that household. Then we have the child, the youngest child in that family attends Ironside School, and one of the teachers there is already positive. So we yesterday put all of these students and staff who attended the high school, the Indooroopilly State High School, into 14 days quarantine. We will be doing the same today with all students and staff who've attended Ironside School. They'll be in 14 days quarantine. And now we are rapidly contact tracing the medical student. She has been to a lot of venues, a lot of places, at Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital, at the University of Queensland, at the Translational Research Institute at the PA, and also she has a sibling who works in a hospital. So we're urgently working through all of those, but there are a lot of places she's been, and we'll be rapidly getting that information up on our website. So please, anyone who has been in Brisbane or any of those 11 LGAs in the last week, could you check our website and check it every single day going forward, because we will find more exposure sites. Then we are also working through the school teacher where she's been, and through the other 4 members of the household with that original case. But I expect there are going to be an enormous number of exposure sites all through Brisbane, and probably as well through the Sunshine Coast and further. So it's really important people check. Then, of course, the most important message of all, if anyone has any symptoms at all, this is the time you must come forward and get tested immediately. You get the first sign of those symptoms, because we know, and every single time we see it, that you're actually most infectious in the 2 days before you get any symptoms. So if there's any delay while you wait to see what happens with your symptoms, we've missed that critical first part. And we know from Sydney, and here indeed as well, that people transmit Delta in as quickly as 30 hours after they're first exposed. And that's why we need to have a particularly restrictive lockdown. This is one of the most restrictive lockdowns we've had since the start of the pandemic, which makes sense because this is the most infectious variant we've had since the start of the pandemic. So for the next 3 days, I just ask everyone, stay at home. The only real reason you need to leave home is for health care or to provide support to a vulnerable person. Hopefully people have got enough food at home. If you don't, of course you can go shopping and buy more food, or order it online, or do whatever you need to do. But if you don't need to go, if you don't actually need that particular item of food, you're going to have to change whatever you're cooking, then please do that. Stay at home. That's the safest place for everyone to be until we can sort this out. Those 2 schools alone are very large schools, and there have been a lot of people who've been potentially infected days ago who could already have started spreading. That's what we've seen happen in Sydney. Then please, in the past we've allowed visitors to your home. We've capped it at 2. Please don't have visitors to your home. Don't go and visit anyone else unless you need to, because that person is a vulnerable person and actually does need you to go and see them. Otherwise, if you can delay, we're hopeful this will be 3 days. Let's all hope it is 3 days and stay home. And the more people who stay home and the more people who limit their movements, the more likely it is that it will only be 3 days. Then I am asking anyone who was in any of those LGAs, if possible going back, definitely 1 a.m. this morning, as the Deputy Premier said, but if possible going back to 1 a.m. yesterday morning, because I think there was significant risk in Brisbane yesterday, that when you go back to your regional parts of Queensland, that you follow this lockdown, that you stay at home and your family stays at home with you. Because if you've picked up the Delta variant, you could pass it on very, very quickly. So from 1 a.m. this morning, it is a rigid requirement. When you go back home, anyone who's been in Brisbane from 1 a.m. this morning, or any of those LGAs of Greater Brisbane in the southeast Queensland, then when you go home, I'm asking you and your entire family to stay in lockdown and only leave for those reasons. Now, of course, people outside Brisbane or the greater area of southeast Queensland can come home to Brisbane, but then you need to go into lockdown when you come home. So really it's about minimising your movements, and if we do that, and we do it how we've done it so well before, if we do it with those enhanced restrictions, then hopefully it will only be for those 3 days. The one reason that I do want to encourage people to absolutely leave home, if you're well, leave home and go and get a vaccine. So anyone who is 60 years of age or over, please make sure that you go and get your first dose of vaccine if you haven't had it already, and your second dose when it's due. If you're under age 60 and you've got a booking to go and get Pfizer, then go and get Pfizer. If you're due for your second dose of Pfizer and you're in that 3 to 6 week period, then go and get your second dose of Pfizer. Now, if you're in quarantine, then if you're due for your second dose, you need to get your second dose if it's in that time frame and can't be delayed, so if it's Pfizer. But please ring up, and that vaccine clinic will make special arrangements. If you're due for your first dose, now's not the time to be leaving quarantine to go and get a first dose. So there's a lot of information there. Please go and look on our website, and that'll give you specifics and detailed information, and there are a lot of frequently asked questions there, so please go through there if you have any questions. But this is essentially quite straightforward. For the next 3 days, I need everyone in those 11 LGAs that have been wearing masks, those 11 LGAs, to stay home and not leave unless it's absolutely critical. Thank you.
So we've seen already what Delta can do. Over just about 5 days, we've had an entire household of 5 people infected, and one of those have already passed it on through their school to a teacher. So we know how dangerous Delta is. We know it can spread quicker than any other variant we have dealt with over the last 18 months. National Cabinet and the health ministers were presented this week with the Doherty Institute modelling, and it now shows if you want to manage this, if you want to stop the spread, you must go hard and you must go fast. We have one chance to get this under control, and we need everyone to work with us to make this happen. No movement. Stay home. If you are unwell, even with the slightest cough or sore throat, go get tested. We will be looking at our testing clinics. We will be monitoring demand. We will be setting up extra clinics, so please check the website to see where the closest testing clinic is to you. We will also work with private pathologists to ensure as many of them across the 11 LGAs can open up over the weekend as well. And of course we will be asking the Commonwealth to have their testing clinics open without needing a referral so people can walk in. I want to remind people why we need to do this. New South Wales had one case on the 16th of June. 38 days later, they are at 3,000 cases from that one person. 38 days, 3,000 cases. Sadly, 13 people have died just from that one cluster. We have to get this right. We know Queenslanders will do the right thing. We've been here before, we know what we've got to do. We've got to be more vigilant, more compliant than we've ever been before. For those people who are going to be contacted as close contacts and asked to go into quarantine for 14 days, you must stay in quarantine. If you need any assistance whatsoever, please ring 134 COVID and we will get you the support that you need. But you must stay home. If you are going out to get a test, go straight back home. Do not go anywhere until you've got your result wherever you are in Queensland. So if you are outside of those 11 LGAs, it is not okay to go to the shops after you get a test. You must go straight home and stay there until you get your results. This is absolutely critical. We have to get this right. We want to keep everyone safe. Queensland's done such a fantastic job and we want to make sure we keep it that way. So please, everyone, check out the website, look at what the restrictions are. The message is simple, as Dr. Young said. If you are in those 11 LGAs, if you've already been wearing this mask every day because you know you have to, then you are one of the people we're talking to today. Go home, stay there until Tuesday afternoon, and we hope we can get through this quickly. But we know it works. We've seen it before. So please follow the rules. Of course, there will be police out there checking compliance. We just can't afford to slip up. We need this to work, and we need everyone doing the right thing, and I know we will get there. Thank you, Queenslanders.
The Minister is right. The vast majority of Queenslanders have done the right thing throughout this pandemic response. But what we need is everyone to do the right thing for the coming days. What we don't want to see is the situation, when, as we saw yesterday, where police had to hand out 127 masks and fine 3 people for failing to wear masks when told to, and indeed in one incident at a Coolum cafe having to arrest a person who simply refused to comply with our directions when they were operating a business and not wearing masks. That is simply not good enough. You can expect to see additional police on the roads in the coming days. We will be tasking our officers to go out there and make sure that all of the exemptions are complied with as they are intended to be. So to be able to do that, please make sure that you do understand what those exemptions are that you can leave your house for. And if you do have to go and do that, please make sure you take your mask and wear it as you are required. Also, I suggest that you can carry identification that proves that you where you reside, so you can verify you are within the 10 kilometres. We will, as we always have, take an educative approach and work with people. So if you're trying to do the right thing, you will be looked after. You will get the right outcome. If you choose to do the wrong thing, there are strong consequences. And can I remind people that it carries a $1,378 fine for any person who does the wrong thing in disobeying the directions within this. And as I've just mentioned, there are also the ability for our officers to arrest people and put them before a court if they take it to the next level. I'm also informed through our intelligence that there are people planning to protest in the CBD of Brisbane tomorrow. Can I say really clearly, now is not the time. Now is not the time for protests in our community. We ask that you do not go ahead with those protests. You can expect a police presence, and you can expect the police to make sure that the Chief Health Officer's directions are obeyed. Thank you.
I just don't want people going out of their immediate area and then spreading the virus to a broader area. So at the moment, I don't know where this virus is in the southeast Queensland. It could be anywhere. It could be in the Sunshine Coast because we had one of those original cases up there and they live in Buderim. It could be down in the Gold Coast because we had one of those original cases down there when they were being managed. We know it's in Taringa and we know it's in Indooroopilly, and we know that 2 members of that family went out to Ipswich to attend the vaccine clinic. We know that this medical student has travelled widely through Brisbane. So I don't know today where this virus is in the southeast of Queensland, but wherever it is, I don't want it to go further. I want it to stay where it is. And we know that the vast majority of cases are spread by people breathing out and other people breathing in. That is the vast majority of cases. So if I can keep the people in a restricted area, I can keep the virus in a restricted area. So I don't want people leaving their home for more than 10 kilometres, unless of course they're in one of our fewer rural postcodes where they don't have shops. So of course use that common sense, which I know people do, and also people often travel beyond 10 kilometres for healthcare, so they can do that, or to look after a vulnerable person, but just minimise movement if you can. Right, so we've had 2 cases in hotel quarantine that arrived in Brisbane on the 29th of June. So they both flew, one flew from Indonesia, one flew from the UK. They both ended up in Singapore. They were both on the same flight, but they were 3 rows apart, opposite sides of the plane, those 2 people. Then they flew into Brisbane and went into hotel quarantine at the Ridges South Bank. Now, one of them tested positive day 1 after arrival. The second tested positive day 5 after arrival. So, and they both have exactly the same genome sequence. So I think the first person's given it to the second person, but they could have done that in Singapore, they could have done it on the plane, they could have done it in hotel quarantine. Then one person was transferred to Gold Coast University Hospital for care, because as you know, all positive cases we admit to hospital. So one went to the Gold Coast University Hospital for care. Once he finished his treatment, he went home to WA. The second person was admitted to the Sunshine Coast University Hospital. Once he finished his treatment, he went home to Buderim. So I think that one of those two cases has led to transmission to someone who I don't know, who has then led to further transmission, and eventually I think the most likely scenario is this medical student has acquired it. I don't know how. Then most likely scenario is they have given it to the student they were tutoring, the 17-year-old that we announced yesterday, who has then given it, or possibly the medical student has given it, to the other 4 people in that household. Does that explain it? No, there's no link to Townsville at this stage. I'm not sure. There's no issue at all. The Townsville link was that Magnetic Island case, which was a while back, that is totally genome sequenced. There's no relationship there. So unless they're concerned about that past one, but I'm not concerned about it. No, today I've got no concerns about Townsville.
Do you think it's very likely they will detect more cases in the community?
Oh, extremely likely. That's why we need to go into a lockdown, and that's why the lockdown has to be the most restrictive we've ever been in, because this is the most infectious virus we've ever had.
What do you see that threshold being in terms of getting out of it?
Can we just have the next 3 days? I'll see how many cases. So we are doing an enormous amount of contact tracing, and thank you to all of those people who've already been involved, all of those families from Indooroopilly State High and now from Ironside. We'll just be doing enormous amount of contact tracing and requiring people to go into quarantine.
If people don't do the right thing, and if they do protest tomorrow, how quickly could it become a New South Wales situation?
Very quickly. That's why I need people to do the right thing, and I know that the vast majority of people will do the right thing. They have every single time. I've been beautifully not surprised, because Queenslanders always do the right thing. But it would only take a small number to do the wrong thing for this to get out of hand. So yes, please don't protest tomorrow. Protests are very, very important. I agree with protests. They're an important part of our democracy. But just don't do it tomorrow. Could you wait till we're not in lockdown and then have a protest? No.
This might be a question for the Deputy Premier. There's one national campaign last time. We changed our approach to lockdown, to border closure, once 70 or 80% of the population is vaccinated. Are you happy with that?
I think what National Cabinet resolved was that it would depend on the circumstances, and that's both the circumstances of the vaccination status of the population as well as the nature of the outbreak and the strain that you're dealing with. So I think it's very, very hard to set hard and fast rules about it, and I think that's the kind of conversation they had.
Can you clarify what part of support the government is considering? Is that for people who lose out on wages, or is it for business owners?
We'll be looking at both. We'll be looking at both what compensation arrangements should be provided for businesses and for workers who are affected by the lockdown. Obviously, we'll be seeking to get a similar level of support from the Commonwealth as other states have received. And we just ask you to bear with us throughout the day as we work through those details, and hopefully have something to talk about tomorrow at our update. I have, and we certainly welcome the effort on the Pinkenba quarantine site. We wish we had alternatives to hotel quarantine now. We would prefer they were regional hotel quarantine, but the Commonwealth is building that facility for us at Pinkenba, and we just want to see it built as quickly as possible while ensuring that it delivers all of the outcomes that we're looking for.
No, there will be no football matches. So no community sport, no professional sport, nothing for the next 3 days, starting as of 4 p.m. today. But I would hope that anyone who's out there concludes whatever they're doing and goes home. So it's only officially starting from 4, but it would be a good idea that if people are hearing this message, and I'm sure they are, given you're all texting everyone, that they respond, which is perfect. No, thank you. I'm very grateful. No, please keep going. I'm extraordinarily grateful. So the quicker this message can get out, the quicker people can hear it and the quicker people can follow it. Don't wait till 4 o'clock today to follow this message. If you hear this message now, through our media, through social media, through what we're putting out, please respond as soon as you safely can, of course.
Regards to the masks at school, is that for people of all ages?
For high school. So anyone who attends high school, any teachers, any staff, any pupils will need to wear masks, and in primary school, any adults.
Should people who are aged, I don't know, 12 to 17, should they be wearing masks when they're in the general public as well?
Oh yes, masks are only exempted for people under age 12. Yes, so yeah, it's just that for high school, so there might be some 11-year-olds at high school, they can wear masks as well. So anyone at high school needs to wear a mask.
Can you switch vaccination exposure size? So did the 17-year-old and above go there to try to get a jab and then returned away when they were sick and set across the...
No, the mother had a booking, so she was vaccinated, and it was picked up that the 17-year-old was unwell, so she was sent to go and get a COVID test. Well, it depends where they've been. If the players have been in Brisbane this morning, then yes, it will be. Yeah, school will go ahead on Monday and Tuesday, but only for the children of essential workers. And essential workers are those people who genuinely must go to work and can't do their work online from home. So there should not be that many of them. So children of essential workers, and also for vulnerable children. And every school knows the vulnerable children in their school, and they've had this happen before, so they'll have that in place.
How does that work for childcare and daycare?
Same arrangement, yes, for childcare, daycare, school. It's the same arrangement for children of essential workers and for vulnerable children.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are, the snap lockdown that's been announced. And of course, what that means is that lots of functions and events in Brisbane that will have to be postponed. Well, the interfaith the Sufi music program that was going to be happening and is cancelled now. And of course, so is the Superhumans program that was supposed to happen. I'll bring you all the updates just in a minute while we go back to the news from New South Wales and we'll carry on from there.
What a day to be outdoors. But in Sydney's hotspots, it can only be enjoyed from behind a mask.
I understand in a confined area or where people are actually close together, but yeah, on your own, yeah, I don't get that.
Using the masks outside sucks, but it has to be done.
The mask mandate's only exemptions are during vigorous exercise and in vehicles. The rules are tough, but the Premier insists they're necessary.
This Delta strain is contagious, it's deadly, and it's affecting people of all ages.
Signs of COVID are everywhere. Even in the east, police are out in force. And they're preparing for the possibility of another protest tomorrow.
It's really sad, shocking. Yeah, I can't believe it. It's insane that people think that way.
I'm in two minds about it. I agree that, we need to, have a voice, but I just don't think the timing's right, especially with numbers so high.
To avoid a repeat of this, 1,000 officers will guard the CBD.
If you think you can splinter from that and protest somewhere else in Greater Sydney, that force will be mobile and will be waiting for you.
Your actions will hurt. Forget about the rest of us, but you could be taking the disease home. Do not give those you love the most a death sentence.
A man who was turned away and fined has since tested positive.
We're just currently working with police operationally to locate that person and determine whether they actually did subsequently attend the protest.
What's also worrying is some people are suffering in silence at home. Health officials are pleading with them to go to hospital before it's too late.
We are seeing more families coming in with a family member who is presenting not alive but dead.
I just want to reassure the community that you will be treated with dignity and respect.
An emphatic plea to ensure people get the care they need. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Sydney.
Yeah, yes, of course, that is the case. Well, right now, looking at the Queensland, we know that the 4 days lockdown that's been announced, and of course, it will be on till. So as it mentioned, the 3-day lockdown starts 4 p.m. today. Local government areas of Brisbane, Ipswich, Logan City, Moreton Bay, Redland, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, Noosa, Somerset, Lockyer Valley and Scenic Rim. The only reason you can leave home is to buy essentials such as groceries or medications. Work if you can't work from home. No school except for children of essential workers. Exercise within 10 kilometers from home. Healthcare, including to get COVID-19 vaccination or to provide health care or support. Wear a mask whenever you leave home. People still don't do that. I was coming into the building and people, going about without the mask, and I overheard the conversation saying, we'll only need it when we get into the train or something like that. So, that's just not good enough. People need to be careful and have community interest at large. And of course, we know that there's many functions and events which I talked about that have been cancelled. So, one that has been cancelled is Superheroes Without Capes, and their program was from Simply Human, which was going to be today at Sunpeck from 6 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. That has been postponed. I've just been speaking to Prerna Power, the organizer. She could not come on the program by phone because she's on the phone to the venue people and other things, but she has asked me to make this postponement announcement until further notice. The event for tonight has been postponed. And of course, I will be bringing to you the other postponements as they come on hand. The other one is that interfaith music program that was going to be happening today. So right now, there's so many things that have been planned and that are put on hold at this point in time. Well, Australia, how do we plan to get to the phase 4 of vaccination? Let's take a look.
National Cabinet has agreed to new vaccination targets to ease restrictions and reopen Australia. Under the 4-phase plan, lockdowns will become less likely and international borders will gradually reopen. The next stage will be triggered when 70% of the population is vaccinated.
These are targets for all Australians to achieve. States, territories working together, communities working together, individuals, GPs, pharmacists. Australia will get this done by working together. The targets are there for us all to achieve and for us all to work towards.
Let's go through each stage. Australia is currently under the first stage, suppressing the virus while the vaccine rollout continues. State and territories agreed to implement tough restrictions, such as lockdowns early, to fight the Delta outbreak. The country will enter Phase B, the next stage, when an average of 70% of eligible people are vaccinated. Under this phase, there will be special rules for vaccinated Australians and lockdowns are less likely. Quarantine caps will remain, but more vaccinated arrivals will be permitted. The Prime Minister says he hopes to enter this stage by the end of the year.
We're not going to set timetables on it. I would hope so, but that is entirely up to how the nation responds to this challenge we're setting for ourselves, each and to every one of us. And there will certainly be the supply and the distribution and the opportunity to do that, but whether that is achieved is up to all of us.
To trigger the third stage, Phase C, 80% of eligible adults must be vaccinated. There'll be no restrictions for those who've had both doses. Restrictions will only be limited to highly targeted lockdowns and for vulnerable communities.
Lockdowns are possible. The word, I forget the exact wording, but it says lockdowns are still possible. As we all know, lockdowns are really, until we're all vaccinated, the only thing that works. When we hit the 80% mark, lockdowns would only be for unusual circumstances in specific locations. But 80% vaccination is very high, but we still reserve the right to lockdown in specific locations if absolutely necessary.
No vaccination target has been decided for the final phase, but under this stage there'll be a gradual opening of international borders and coronavirus will be treated like any other infectious disease.
The scientific evidence shows that we're largely then in a place where COVID can be managed consistent with other infectious diseases, and of course we don't apply those types of restrictions to the flu or many other things like that.
Let's get more on this vaccine roadmap now with our data analyst, Casey Briggs. Casey, good evening. Can you put these targets into some context for us?
Yeah, hi Eliza. Well, first of all, let's just look at where we are at in the race to 70% of the eligible population for vaccines. So that's people aged 16 plus. 18.2% of people have 2 doses at the moment, so that's quite a way short of 70. Another 22% have a first dose. So within the next couple of months, you would expect that the second dose, the both dose rate would be at about 40%. So there's still 30% of Australians that we need to get in the front door, have a first vaccination, first dose appointment. But it's probably worth putting this into some context on an international and also looking at the modelling around what this says. 70% of Australians 16 plus, it's kind of roughly equivalent to about 56% of the Australian population when you include children. So Phase B is roughly 56% of Australia's population as a whole. And there are countries that have got a 56% population double dose vaccination rate already. This is from Our World in Data, some kind of back of the envelope calculations, but a lot of smaller countries, San Marino, Nauru, Jersey, Bahrain, we've got Israel is above that level, of course we know, Chile, the UAE, a fair few countries, and then a lot are quite close to it as well, United Kingdom, Ireland, Portugal, Singapore and the like. So this is a target that other countries are getting to at this point. Many of them, of course, started their vaccination rollout earlier. They haven't had the sorts of supply issues that we've had, and they haven't had the same hesitancy around the AstraZeneca vaccine that we have had in Australia. The second question is, how big is that 56% target as a whole? Well, there's, or 70% of the eligible population. 2 pieces of modelling that came out just in the last 24 hours. One from the Grattan Institute did some modelling. They suggested 80% of the population would need to be vaccinated before, of the total population, including children, would need to be vaccinated before you could sever the link between health, between cases and really severe hospitalisation. So that's quite a bit higher than these 56 and kind of 64% for 80% targets that we're talking about. The Burnet Institute also put out some modelling this morning looking at what the kind of consequences would you be looking at if you opened up at 70%. And they were saying, based on their modelling, that you'd likely need to see restrictions continuing for some time. Now, that was based on an assumption that the international borders would be considerably more open than I think the National Cabinet is canvassing. But that kind of puts us in a bit of context here. We're looking for 56%. It's achievable. It's probably not achievable in the next couple of months, but we can get there.
So you mentioned that, the time frame there. What is our current vaccination pace, and how soon can we get 70% double dosed?
Yes, at the moment it really depends on the state you're in as to how quickly things are going. Let me just show you, first of all, the national vaccination rate. We're looking at 210,000 doses were reported today, so that's a record. We've seen a fair few records in the last couple of weeks. This curve is climbing, and it's actually climbing quite steeply at the moment, and we can only presume, we can only hope that it will continue to grow as supply, particularly of the Pfizer vaccine, increases in the coming months. But those 210,000 doses, they're not evenly distributed across the country. 40% of them were in New South Wales, so New South Wales is now doing 63, 64 or more thousand doses a day on average at the moment, and that has been surging since that's when the lockdown began, June 26 or so. We've just seen this steady increase ever since then. The New South Wales government, the Premier Gladys Berejiklian, has made a vaccination blitz a really key part of the strategy at this point, so you would think that that would continue to increase. And if you see the first dose pace in New South Wales continue, here's the state-by-state breakdown. New South Wales has a first dose rate of 40.2%. 2.6 million people have a first dose at the moment. If the current rate continues, in about 7 or 8 weeks, you'd probably see this at 70. Add another 6 to 8 weeks or so on top of that to then get all of those people with first doses to get their second dose. You know, what's that? Let's do the maths on that. That's probably 12 to 15 or 15 weeks or so, let's say, from now on the current pace, which the trajectory is it's going up, so hopefully that gets pulled in. Problem is, most of the states, New South Wales and the ACT, have the highest per capita vaccination rate at the moment. Most states are not going very quickly at all compared to that. WA, for example, I had a quick look at, and I think it's, not 7 or 8 weeks to get to a first dose rate of 70%. I think it's more like 18, 20 or more weeks at this current pace. I think it will speed up, or we know it will speed up, and we'll just keep kind of monitoring what that time frame looks like and how quickly it can come in. It's not that something that will be achieved in the next couple of months. It's something that's going to take a concerted effort.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, on the lockdown, and here's the latest, as you can see on the screen there. The 3-day lockdown, which starts 4 p.m. today. Local government areas of Brisbane, Ipswich, Logan City, Moreton Bay, Redland, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, Noosa, Somerset, Lockyer Valley, and the Simic Ring. The only reason you should be out is to buy essentials such as groceries or medicine. Work, if you can't work from home. No school except for children of essential workers. Exercise within 10 kilometers of home. Healthcare, including to get COVID-19 vaccination or to provide help, care or support. And that's the only reasons why you can get out of the house. And remember, every time you are out of the house, you need to have that mask on. The mask needs to be put on every time you go out. And it is very, very unfortunate when we see people not doing the right thing. They're out and about, but they're not wearing the mask. So they're putting everyone's health at risk.
Hello everyone, I'm Councillor Angela Owen, and it's with great pleasure once again that I throw my support behind India Day Fair to be held this year on the 15th of August at Suncorp Piazza at South Bank in Brisbane. This is for many years, and it is wonderful to know that it is continuing and growing from strength to strength.
Hello everyone, my name is Ishana Chandra and I would like to invite you to Gopia Queensland's India Day Fair at South Bank Piazza on the 15th of August. A free fun-filled family event celebrating India's independence, a new venue and bigger, bolder programming. See you all there!
Yes, and we'd love to see you all there. Hopefully, with the restrictions being over by then, hopefully, we'll see how things go and progress. But it is what it is right now. As we were talking about all the functions and events that have been postponed, the next one that I'd like to talk about is this one here, and this is the one that was going to be held today. If you look at that. Sangeet Premi Club Interfaith Music Festival, even the hall was all set up yesterday. So it was going to hold bhajan, kirtan, Sufi and chautal and everything like that. So it has now been cancelled and until further notice. So that one has been cancelled, and of course we know Simply Humans event at Sunpack tonight has also been put on hold from postponement. So it is a postponement that it has been and not cancelled. So we will keep you up to date as how things progress, and then we'll bring you up to date on what's happening and how things are progressing. So as we know that the end of this is going to be on Tuesday. So it is what it is. Yep. The lockdown begins today and it ends on Tuesday, hopefully, if it goes okay, and it starts at 4 p.m. today. And the lockdown is for the 3 days. So, those are the conditions in which, or the only conditions in which you can go out. So, it is very, very important that we all obey those conditions and look at the conditions as they are. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you today. But when we have had this lockdown coming into place, and of course the two events that have been put on hold for the time being, as I mentioned before, the first one is this one here, is the Superheroes Without KP. This was going to be today at 6 p.m. This has been cancelled, and also this one here has been cancelled as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for today. Until tomorrow, maybe if we have to, I'll probably go live again later in the day if there are any updates, as Premier's office has directed us through a media release that they will put out some latest information as they do, and if it comes out, we will go live again if needs be, and we'll come live once again tomorrow to update on how things are going. So we will keep everyone informed via our channel every day. So for now, stay safe. Observe those rules. I know they are hard. It's been hard hitting on many of the event organizers and other things that have been planned. Lots of things get planned, but of course, community safety comes first. So we must all do the right thing. So until tomorrow or until later today, it's goodbye from me from this segment. Whatever you do, please do the right thing. Stay safe.